Starting in the early 1900s, the United States was considered a very prosperous nation with a booming economy. Their naval force had received high recognition for they had demonstrated their power and strategy during the Spanish-American War. For these reasons, many Americans supported overseas expansion as the U.S. would increase its global trade market, gain more territory, eventually build more naval bases, and spread democracy through their policies. After many years of operating under the shadow of European superpowers, Americans were ready to change that. In fact, as Spain was becoming weaker, it was a great opportunity to fight them for power.
Beginning in 1898, the Spanish-American War only lasted 10 weeks, but the lasting effect on the U.S. economy was enormous. Despite being a former colony itself, it emerged from the war as an imperial world power as well as breaking out from its foreign isolationism ideology and began using a more interventionist approach. From its success from the war, the U.S. ceded the Philippines, Guam, and Puerto Rico from Spanish control and gained partial control over Cuba. The U.S. had also annexed Hawaii that year, so by the beginning of the 20th century, it occupied much of the land in the Pacific and the Caribbean.
The U.S. did not get involved with World War I until much later than everyone else. This meant that there was much less casualties and loss of resources. Additionally, the war was fought in Europe, which meant that all the destruction didn't impact the United States physically. During World War I, the United States mobilized a large army and navy to help the Allies win the war. The U.S.'s large amount of resources also gave the Allies an advantage that led to the success of World War I. This gave America enormous influence in European and global affairs. Even before the United States entered the war, factories changed from civilian to military supplies, and farms grew to feed armies. The addition of investments to the Allies' victory also paid off afterward. Almost $2 billion were put into the cause, and after their side of the war won, the United States' investments increased drastically. The war had turned the United States into a creditor instead of a debtor, and for the first time in its history. This was a major factor that led to the Roaring Twenties and put the United States in a great position economically.
After the Spanish-American War and World War I, all the other countries were focused on rebuilding their nations. Meanwhile, the U.S. enjoyed a period of prosperity as their naval force and strategies gave them the opportunity to emerge as a world power. Also, the market and local businesses were striving on the thousands of exports that were being made to European nations. Their interventionist attitude allowed the country to prosper.
The U.S.'s success skyrocketed after its tremendous gains from the Spanish-American War and later World War I, which allowed the U.S. to show its strength as other countries struggled to recover.